Rain fell in heavy sheets across the dense forest, drumming a relentless rhythm against the canopy. Moonlight barely pierced the thick clouds, leaving the woods in shadows so deep they seemed alive. From within this darkness came the soft, terrified sobs of a child. "Mommy, please don't let them hurt you." The voice, fragile yet urgent, carried through the night. Somewhere beyond the trees, a struggle ensued, muffled by the storm. But to one pair of piercing amber eyes, nothing escaped notice. The Alpha King, tallest and most imposing of his pack, had been alerted by instinct first and sound second. His body tensed as he moved through the undergrowth, each step silent but deadly. The scent of fear and blood reached him, sharp and unmistakable. Then he saw her, a little girl, no more than 7, clutching the hem of a dark cloak, her tiny hands trembling. The cloak belonged to him, her innocent eyes, wide with terror, locked on his. "They're hurting my mama," she wailed, her voice breaking the heavy night. Without a second thought, the Alpha King's control snapped. His hands clenched, his teeth bared, and a growl rumbled from deep in his chest, shaking the very air around him. The storm seemed to obey his anger, winds whipping violently as if to join his hunt. From the shadows, a group of rogue humans hunters, merciless and cruel, realized too late that they had awakened the wrong predator. The Alpha King's eyes, glowing gold even in the dim light, fixed on them. He moved like a shadow of death itself, each step silent yet impossibly fast. The little girl squeezed his cloak, hiding behind him as though he were the only shield between her and the horrors beyond. Her small, rain-drenched fingers clutched his fabric, and in that moment, something unspoken passed between them. The Alpha King felt it, a bond unformed but undeniable that rooted him to this fragile human child. When he finally struck, the forest erupted into chaos. The hunters barely had time to react before the Alpha King was upon them. A force of nature, muscles rippling, teeth flashing, his howl blending with the storm itself. But it wasn't just rage driving him. Beneath the predator's fury was something deeper, something unexpected. Protectiveness, tenderness, an unfamiliar pull toward this tiny human who had dared to touch him in her desperation. After the last hunter fell, silence descended, broken only by the steady rain and the child's soft sobs. The Alpha King knelt down, his massive form looming but somehow gentle as he spoke. "You're safe now." His voice, low and gravelly, was almost a growl of reassurance. "I won't let anyone hurt your mama." The little girl looked up at him, eyes wide, uncomprehending yet trusting. Slowly, she hugged his cloak tighter, as if trying to hold onto both safety and the strange comfort that radiated from him. In that instant, a chain of events began, a story of danger, forbidden attraction, and unbreakable bonds that would tie human hearts to the world of wolves, forever changing them both. Somewhere in the distance, the storm was retreating, but the night's danger had only just begun. And the Alpha King knew, deep in his instincts, that this child was the key to a confrontation that would shake the entire pack. The forest was thick with mist now, the storm having passed but leaving a heavy, dripping silence. The little girl, still clutching the Alpha King's cloak, led him through the trees with trembling steps. Each footfall left a mark in the wet earth, a trail that spoke of fear, desperation, and urgency. Her mother's scent was faint, laced with fear and struggle, but the Alpha King could detect it. He moved with predatory precision, every muscle coiled, eyes scanning the shadows. The humans who had attacked were gone, or worse, lying somewhere in the dark, paying the price for underestimating him. Then they found her. She was tied to a tree, bruised and bloodied but alive. Her eyes widened at the sight of her daughter, and then at the massive man who had appeared from the shadows. The Alpha King stepped forward, imposing and protective, his presence both terrifying and mesmerizing. "I've got her," he said, voice low and commanding, each word carrying the weight of authority and something softer, almost unrecognizable: care. The mother tried to speak, but a cough and the sharpness of her pain made her falter. The little girl ran forward, slipping out of the Alpha King's protective shadow to throw her arms around her mother. "Mama, I knew he would come," she whispered, her small voice trembling. The Alpha King's amber eyes softened for a fraction of a second, a moment fleeting but dangerous. He wanted to stay to watch this family reunite, but the forest was no longer safe. The hunter's friends could be nearby, and he could not let his guard down. As he untied the ropes binding the mother, she glanced up at him, her heart pounding, not entirely from fear. There was something in his eyes, in the sheer presence of him, that both terrified and enthralled her. He was danger incarnate, yet her daughter's trust in him made her hesitate before recoiling completely. Who are you?" she asked, her voice shaking. He said nothing, letting his gaze linger on the little girl who was hiding partially behind her mother. In that gaze was a promise. "I am the protector. Cross me, and you will regret it. But I will not harm what I guard." The child tugged at his cloak again, and he finally knelt down to her level. "You're brave, very brave." His voice, low and melodic, held something strange, an echo of something more than anger, a hint of respect. Never forget that. The bond between them deepened that night, not a casual connection, but something almost supernatural. Wolves recognized family in ways humans could not, and this small human had touched the Alpha King's instincts at the core. She was now marked, in a sense he could not fully articulate, as part of his world. But danger was far from over. The forest whispered of other packs, rival wolves, and threats that no human could understand. He sensed eyes on them, predators, curious and hungry, who would not hesitate to strike. The little girl's mother, now freed, clutched her daughter tightly. She glanced at the Alpha King once more, noting his massive frame, the dangerous curve of his fangs, the power in his hands. Fear battled awe in her gaze. "Thank you," she said, almost inaudibly. He nodded wordless and turned to survey the darkness beyond the immediate clearing. Every muscle in his body was ready, every sense sharpened. He would protect this family, even if it meant unleashing a fury the world had never seen. But as he watched the mother and child walk toward safety, he realized something unsettling. His heart, wild, untamed, and alpha, had begun to feel something it had never felt before. Something that belonged to neither the wolf nor the man fully, but to the fragile little girl who had dared to reach for him. The night was far from over, and the Alpha King knew that protecting them would come at a cost, not just of blood, but of the barriers he had built around his heart. And already, he feared, the humans and wolves alike were beginning to sense that something extraordinary had begun. A bond that would ignite fire and passion, fear and desire, across worlds that should never collide. By the time the first light of dawn seeped through the misty canopy, the mother and daughter were safely ensconced in a hidden cabin on the edge of the forest. It was old, abandoned, but secure, a place even the most determined hunters would not stumble upon easily. The little girl clung to her mother, still shivering from fear, yet now wrapped in a blanket of relative safety. The Alpha King remained outside, leaning against the cabin's weathered wall, rain, slick fur drying in the early sunlight. His amber eyes scanned the tree line, alert for any signs of danger. Wolves, humans, hunters, none dared approach him, not after the events of the night. Finally, the mother stepped outside, her eyes cautious yet curious. She had watched him through the window, studied his immense form, the sharp contrast of savage power, and a strange, quiet gentleness. Why did you help us?" she asked, her voice low, trembling between awe and fear. The Alpha King's gaze flicked to her, cold and intense. "Because it was right." His voice carried authority, but underneath, something softer lingered, a tone he rarely allowed anyone to hear. "And because someone needed protecting." Her eyes darted to her daughter, who now peeked from behind the cabin door, watching him like a tiny sentinel. The child's silent trust was impossible to ignore. He felt it like a tether, pulling him closer to them, closer than he had ever allowed anyone before. You're not like anyone I've ever met," the mother murmured. There was tension in her tone, a magnetic pull she couldn't explain. Fear mixed with curiosity, attraction dancing dangerously close. She knew he was dangerous, wild, unpredictable, deadly, but also undeniably captivating. The Alpha King stepped closer, massive and imposing, yet there was restraint in his movement, a deliberate control. And you're stronger than you realize. Your daughter, she reminded me of something important. Courage doesn't always roar, sometimes it whispers. His words, low and compelling, sent shivers down her spine. She felt a pull she couldn't deny, a tension between danger and desire. The way the storm had raged the night before, wild, consuming, impossible to ignore. Suddenly, a rustle in the forest snapped everyone's attention. The Alpha King stiffened instantly, every muscle coiled like a spring. Predators, wolves from rival packs, emerged from the shadows, eyes gleaming with hunger and challenge. "Stay behind me," he ordered, voice sharp as a blade. His body shifted, taller, broader, fur bristling. He became a true alpha, not just a man but a wolf, a hunter, a force of nature. The rival pack hesitated, sensing the difference between them and a true king. The mother's heart pounded, fear and awe mingling in a dizzying swirl. She couldn't look away as he moved, graceful yet deadly, every motion a blend of beauty and terror. Her daughter clung to her side, whispering, "He's protecting us like he promised." As the rival wolves retreated, defeated by sheer dominance, the Alpha King's gaze softened once more, just for them. He turned, his expression unreadable yet brimming with unspoken emotion. "You're safe for now, but danger is never far." The mother stepped closer, her voice barely above a whisper. I want to understand you, to know who you are." He paused, a dangerous intensity in his amber eyes. He should have walked away. He should have kept his distance. But the tether, fragile, invisible, undeniable, pulled him closer. Some things can't be explained, only felt. The little girl, sensing the tension, reached for his hand, bridging the gap between worlds. He led her, a silent promise that she, and her mother, would remain under his protection. But inside, a storm was growing, one that no pack, no human, and no hunter could ever hope to contain. In the quiet aftermath, one thing became clear. Hearts had been marked that night, bonds forged in terror and courage, and a forbidden desire had begun to blossom. Wild, untamed, and impossible to deny, the Alpha King knew that protecting them would not just be a matter of strength, but of heart. And already, he feared what he might lose if he let himself fall for the woman who had dared to look at him and see something beyond the beast.